Okay, so now bishop to b4, and here we go. The French defense win-over variation. Here Donner immediately pins the knight on c3, which as you can see, the idea is simple. He wants to remove a defender of this e4 pawn. So to defend this, e5. Tal grabs space. He says, fine, I'll close the center and then we'll see who can attack faster. c5. And guys, this is the key counter strike. Black attacks the base of the white pawn chain, trying to undermine d4. Okay, so after takes, and you can see Tal is now left with double pawns, which looks quite bad, but now white also has a solid central formation and an open b file for the rook. Okay, so now queen to c7, Donner develops his queen, knight to f3, Tal develops the knight, defending the d4 pawn and getting ready to castle. b6, and you can see he wants to fianchetto his light square bishop on a6, and after that a4. Tal expands on the queen side. Okay, now bishop to a6, Donner challenges the light square bishop anyway. Bishop takes a6, knight takes a6, and now you can see black knight on a6 looks slightly offside, but queen to e2. Tal now just attacks the knight, knight to b8, and indeed the knight has to go all the way back to b8, which is not look quite good. a5, and guys, that's a good move. Tal opens a line for the rook and sacrifices a pawn to speed up his attack. I mean, after Donner takes on a5, but now the a file is opened and Tal's rook will soon be activated. Bishop to a3, attacking the c5 pawn, and Donner defends this with knight to d7. And guys, now to open up the position, Tal captures on c5, opening the position further, knight to e7. Okay, so basically you can see here black is preparing to castle, but guys, in this position, Tal finds a beautiful move, c6, which is a pawn sacrifice. Tal offers a pawn to open up the diagonal for his bishop. And you can see he's also threatening the move like bishop takes e7, so that he can, ruin the black castling chances. So what can black do in this position? And guys, the best move for black here is to go for knight to b6. And guys, at first it looks like an ordinary move, but in reality that's a very good move. So basically, instead of capturing the c6 pawn, black uses this pawn as a blockade against white own pieces. So white cannot give a check like now queen to b5 type. And let's suppose if white tries to capture this knight with bishop takes e7. So what's the best move here? And guys, it's not to capture the bishop because of, let's suppose if queen takes e7, rook takes a5, and you can see what's coming next. So to stop this, if queen to c7, knight to d4, and you can see white has a passer on the c file, and slowly white will improve his position, which clearly makes this position better for white. Okay, so that's why let me go back to the move bishop takes e7. So here the best move for black is to capture the pawn on c6 by queen takes c6. And yes guys, the idea is, if let's suppose white tries to defend this bishop on d6, hoping that now he is safe, queen takes c3 check, queen to d2, and you can see queen takes a1, and yeah, that's completely winning for black. Okay, so in the game, after the move c6, queen takes c6, Donner simply accepts the sacrifice. And guys, in this position, one thing is clear, that here white cannot capture this knight on e7 due to the threat of queen takes c3 check. So that's why here Tal decides to castle calmly, bringing the king to safety and preparing to bring the rook into the attack. And after that, black grabs on c3. But now his queen, you can see, is totally exposed. Okay, so now Tal brings his rook into the d file, knight to d6, knight to c6. Black, also improves the position of his knight, but now Tal goes for this amazing move, bishop to d6, creating a permanent outpost for this bishop, which, completely paralyzes the black entire position. So, what's the best move for black here? And guys, here the move is knight to b6, preparing for knight to c4. And let's suppose if black decides to attack the queen by rook to a3, queen to c4, asking for queen exchange so that he can, place this knight on b6 permanently. So obviously white will not go for that. So that's why he will, decline this by, let's suppose if he goes for queen to e3, h6, and you can see black can still fight in the game, even though white has a strong initiative. But in the game, after bishop to d6, yeah, so here Donner makes a mistake with queen to c4. He directly goes for the queen exchange without even considering to improve his pieces. Now Tal just, denies the exchange, and you can see now knight to d2 is coming. And now queen to e4. Donor again asks for a queen exchange because he wants to reduce some pressure. But Tal simply declines again, and he swings his queen over b3, preparing to bring the queen to the 7th rank. And here Donor blocks it with knight to b6. And guys, from this position, the game becomes interesting. Here, white can consider the move knight to d2, attacking the queen. And let's suppose if game continues like queen to e2, and now white can rip open the center with c4. And if d takes c4, queen to b5, attacking the knight. And if black defends with rook to c8, and guys, can you guess the next move which white can play in this position? I don't think so, because the move is knight to b3, sacrificing the knight and preparing for knight takes a5 so that he can build more pressure over the c6 knight. And if black now captures the knight by, let's suppose, c takes b3, queen takes e2. So that's why after, let me go back to the move. So that's why the correct move is queen to b2, pinning the knight. And, white can easily counter this, but you can see white can now go for rook at d goes to b1. He can just attacks the queen. So queen has to move. Let's suppose it goes on c2, knight takes a5, building, and now you can see the pressure on this knight is immense. And if black tries to defend with the queen to e4, bishop to c5. And obviously black cannot capture the e5 pawn due to this undefended knight. And you can see this bishop on c5 is really strong. But yeah, so which clearly makes this position winning for white. Okay, so in the game, after knight to b6, let me go back. Surprisingly, Tal missed that move and he blunders with c4. And basically, he goes for this move so that he can, open the center. But after queen takes c4, you can see now all the pressure on the queen side is gone. And basically, this is according to Injan, but not according to Tal. Yes, I mean, he continues with queen to a3. He simply defends the queen as well as preparing for rook to c1. So basically he wants to bring this rook into the c file. Queen to a6, queen goes back, so that's why he moves. Rook at a goes to c1. Tal brings the other rook into the game, attacking the knight on c6. And guys, in this position, here the best move for black is to go for knight to c4 so that he can advance the knight as well as target the queen. But instead, he defends with rook to c8. Okay, knight to d2. Tal opens the route for the queen so that he can go to g3 and target the pawn on g7. And here Donor plays a weird move, f6, and basically he tries to break the bind, but this not only so basically this opens more line for Tal. Tal now takes on f6, opening the g file and the e file simultaneously. Okay, g takes f6, and now you can see black king is quite exposed. So queen to f3. And you can see now he's targeting the f6 pawn. And guys, but guys, queen to h3 might be the better option, targeting the e6 pawn. And if black tries to cover this by pushing the pawn, just white can give a check, and this rook is coming to join the attack. Sorry, yeah, so this rook is coming to join the attack. So that's why king to d7. Donor tries to run with the king, but guys, knight to d7 might be the better option, because in this position, yes guys, in this position, Tal finds a beautiful move. Queen takes f6. He sacrificed the bishop to open more lines. But why? The idea is, if king takes d6, and guys, here Tal prepared a nasty check, which is knight to e4, taking advantage of the pinned pawn. And after king to c7, knight to c5, attacking the queen. So what's the problem? I mean, just queen to b5. But what about queen to f7 check? And obviously black cannot go either of these square. But why? Let me know in the comments. For now, let's suppose if he goes for knight to d7, queen takes d7, king to b8, and basically we gives up the knight so that we can open the b file and defend the mate. But what about rook to b1, pinning the queen? And to defend this, if black think he can go for knight to b4, just queen takes b5, and yup, game over. Okay, so in the game, after queen takes f6, okay, so here Donner goes for rook at h goes to e8. And guys, that's a mistake, because in this position, Tal finds another beautiful move, knight to e4. I mean, what to say about this legend? Literally, it stunned me. Let's suppose if black now decides to capture the knight with the d pawn, queen to f7 check. And obviously, black cannot go for king to d8 due to the threat of bishop to c7 mate. So that's why if rook to e7 is the only option left, bishop takes e7 check, knight to d5, bishop to a3 check, or discover check. I mean, king to d8, queen takes e6, and you can see this is all over. Okay, so in the game, after knight to e4, here Donner goes for knight to e7. And basically he tries to save the king, but as we all know, it's too late because of knight to c5 check. And you can see now this queen is also in danger, so that's why rook takes c5 is forced. Bishop takes c5, knight to c4. And guys, in this position, the final move by Tal is bishop takes e7, and here Jan Donner resigned, because after rook takes e7, can you guess the final blow? Just pause the video and try to find it by yourself. Okay, so the move is to sacrifice the rook with rook takes d5 check. And let me know in the comments that why black king cannot go either of these squares. Okay, so for now, if he decides to capture with the e pawn, just queen takes a6. And yeah, that's all. What a masterpiece by Tal. I mean, this is a pure genius from the magician of Riga. Like this video, and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.